Welcome to the Tuesday night opening lines NFL show here on odds.com, the odds headquarters. We got Rob Bebenek joining us. This is our inaugural Tuesday show. Our inaugural Sunday show was smoking hot. Bebsy 5-0.
Not a bad start, buddy. Not a bad start.
Not a bad start at all. 5-0 for Bebsy, 2-1 for me. We open up 7-1 plus 5.95 units. We'll be tracking every single bet we make all year. May the glory continue. We got Buzznuts721 joining us in the chat right now. There is a Jordy Nordman ready to get to work. Thank you for joining us, Jordy. And there's Captain Marvel. It says, what's the over on Larry flops tonight? Yes, we were eliminated. The Czar says, Bebsy rode your unders last night. Thank you. Gerald Jones ready to get to work. And it feels good. It feels good to get off to a winning start. I'm 3-1 on sides and totals so far this year. I lost the Deshaun Watson prop on the opening Thursday night. If I had went with my leans on the totals, it would have been glorious. The Seahawks offense looks very, very strong. But it doesn't matter about the bets that I laid off. The bets that we went on were very, very successful. And I want to rock right into this week's events. We can talk about what happened last week when we break down each and every individual game. There's Intex ready to get to work. Intex, great call on the Rams. Spectacular work from our Intex. Busnut says, is this show going to be every week? Yes. Every Tuesday you can catch Bebsy and I here at 8 p.m. And every Sunday you can catch Bebsy and I at 11 a.m. breaking down the 2 hours of football before kickoff. And it's going to build. It's going to build. It's going to build. Bebsy, let's get right into it. Let's talk Thursday night football. Bengals, Browns. Let's pull up the market that we are dealing with here. The Browns open up at -6. They are still there. This total opened up at 45.5, and we've lost 2 points down to 43.5. Bengals lost 16-13 to the Chargers in their season opener Sunday. They played good enough to win. They were outgained 362-295. It looked like they had one for a few seconds. Geno Atkins out with the shoulder injury. Xavier Suafilo hurt his left ankle in the third quarter, so he's out. And then Cleveland was embarrassed by the Ravens, 38-6. I doubled up on that first half full game. It was the same old Browns under a new coach, Kevin Stefanski. And Bebsy, you alluded to that possibility happening, and it certainly did. Mayfield did not look good. Threw an interception in the opening series. There were 3 Browns turnovers, 2 missed kicks by Siebert. That fake punt call by Stefanski was absolutely trash. Mayfield goes 21 for 39 for 189 yards, sacked twice. Beckham, 3 catches for 22 yards, but he was targeted a team high 10 times, and they only connected 3 times. They couldn't stop Lamar. They didn't look good, and now they are 6-point favorites at home after a quick turnaround. What are your leans, or are you making a move on Thursday night? Bengals, Browns, Bebsy, take it away.
First of all, I'd just like to say with regards to the Browns is they are who we thought they were. Wow, what an embarrassing performance. I get it. The Ravens are a stacked football team. Nothing's really changed in their lineup, so you knew that they were going to be ready for week 1. The Browns were not. I made mention of the fact that there's a lot of egos on that team. There's a lot of head cases in that locker room. Mayfield was forcing the ball all day to Odell Beckham Jr. If that's the way they're going to play, they're not going to be able to win against anybody. Like, throw to him if he's open, but you could tell that they were making sure that Odell was getting his targets and his touches to keep him happy. That's not how you win football games. It was just an abysmal performance by the Browns. On the other hand, the Bengals surprised me a bit. Joe Burrow looked... especially considering, that defensive front he was facing, he looked poised. He looked like a guy ready to play in the NFL. Now, the Chargers for the last 4 years have started very, very slow, so I'm not going to get into week 1 overreactions yet. that's why this line is probably -6, because nobody's overreacting to the Browns getting pumped by the Ravens, and nobody's overreacting to the Bengals, playing it tough with the Chargers. But I gotta say, I'm leaning Bengals here, just because. Wow, what a bad performance from the Browns. And if they still have that many players out in the secondary, I mean, they're not putting an NFL lineup out on the field right now, at least for that secondary. So I'd stay away from Cleveland right now. If you are going to lay a bet, I'd lay it on Cincy. They at least showed me that they're going to fight with Burrow. They at least showed me that they're going to come out and play football. The Browns did not. Again, on paper, this is a decent football team. They really need to just ride Chubb. Throw that guy the ball, pass that or hand off that ball to Chubb. Let him dictate the tempo of the game. That's the only way they're going to win right now, because with that ball in Baker's hands, they just look terrible.
They certainly do. They certainly do. And I like what you said about Burrow. I thought he looked composed, and he owned up to the mistakes that he made. And Birdie's saying that this actually opened up at 7.5. It did open up at the books, mainly offshore books that opened it up before play on Sunday. But a lot of the books opened up this at 6. Some of them even opened up at 5.5. And a few of the books have gone back and forth from 5.5 to 6. This is a Bengals or no bet. Busnut's leaning to the Cincinnati Bengals at +6. Al Cervic, I love having Al rolling with us, says, Bengals already have more identity and a more clear game plan than Cleveland. So,
hard not to agree with that from our good man from Caddyshack there. They do. They already came out and showed that they've got something going on the other side of the ball. Like Cleveland looked terrible. They looked like there's no stars on that team, on a team that's full of really talented players. So if we're seeing more of the same, the other thing too is home field advantage is not the same, as I mentioned before. It's not the same as it is in other years, and with Cincinnati only having to head up the road to Cleveland, that's a non-factor in this game. I think it's Cincinnati or bust. But for me, I'm personally still laying off it until we really get a sense of what Joe Burrow can do. I mean, one game against the Chargers doesn't tell me everything I need to know to start laying money on them.
Yeah, and Dennis Garcia says I'm referring to bettable lines from last week. No doubt. Yeah, no, you could have got the +7.5 on the Bengals before they played out against the Chargers. They played well against the Chargers, although, Tyrod couldn't move the ball. We'll get into that when we talk about the Chargers. A lot of cappers talk about how week 2 is the best week to bet NFL football because of the overreactions. But I don't see much of an overreaction here. You talked about that early. And would you call it an overreaction by me that says, I want the Bengals here?
I would call it a bit of an overreaction, just because – look, a few days ago we were talking about just how bad the Bengals are going to be, and then they hung tough with what I think anyways is going to be a decent football team this year, and then lost, by a missed field goal. The overreaction with the Browns might not be so much of an overreaction. You can't play that horribly against a division rival in week 1 and not expect some people to be like, whoa, let's reevaluate what we think of the Browns here. So I think Cincy or bust, but I don't. On paper, the Browns should be able to handle this. I'm leaning Cincy. This is going to be a hard call for me.
What do you think about this total right now? This total opened up at 45.5. That's at Bet365 again. I'm going to be using the licensed openers, and it's now at 43.5. You have a lean on the total.
I would say under. Based on the fact, again, you got a rookie quarterback playing in his second week. They didn't exactly pour on the points, and Cleveland put on 6 points. Again, I'm not basing everything on week 1. I'm just basing things on the fact that, it's early in the season. I still like the unders before these kinks get worked out, and neither of these offenses lit it up. So, yeah, I would probably go under on this.
Great question by Birdie. Great question here. He says, if the Chargers were playing the Browns this week in Cleveland, what would the line be?
That is a fantastic question, because I bet you that line would be at best -2.5 for the Browns, but I think you'd be looking at close to even. I'm guessing it would be -1 for the Browns. So, yeah, it's a fantastic question, Birdie. I mean, when you lay it out there like that, yeah, I guess I would lean Cincy, but I'll tell you this right now: I prefer that under to the score in this one. But if you're willing to double up on here, I don't think that's a terrible idea.
Quick turnaround, just a few days off. The Bengals have to have hope after that first game, and the Browns could be disheveling in front of our very eyes.
Let's put it this way: if Mayfield can't move the ball, then he's seriously gonna look at losing his job this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Intex says Bengals gave up 362 yards to Tyrod, and Tyrod did not look strong. That offense did not look strong. I wonder if I should. Ben is money is going to take a shot with the Bengals money line. I also don't think this +6 is going to last long.
I don't think so either. If you are going to make that play, jump on it now, because I think it's going to get closer and closer. I think probably by game time Thursday, it's going to be -3.
Wow, you think the Browns will go down to just 3-point favorites? Wow.
I think it will. I think money's going to come in heavy on the Bengals.
Huh. And what's our idea on Geno Atkins? Do we expect him to be in the lineup? Does he have a chance of getting in the lineup here? Let me check this out. But just before we move on to the bit from the big Thursday nighter, I mean, Geno's not even on the injury report right now.
He's not?
Not on this one on Roto World. I mean, we know that he missed the game. It was on, with the shoulder injury. Birdie says out is last I heard. Dennis Garcia says no way it gets off a key number and crosses another. I agree with that, Dennis. I don't expect this to be if money pours in on the Bengals. I expect 4.5 to be the lowest. That I don't think a 4 comes on the board. But with Bebsy saying that, Birdie says exactly. Bengals is not an overreaction. We found a line that the books got wrong. And that could be the case. That could be the case. Burrow feels good about himself. He was leading. I think Bengals +6 is a bet I want to make.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a typical Thursday nighter where you heavily favor the home team, because again, it's not a long trip for Cincinnati. It's not like they're going across country for a Thursday.
Bengals +6. I think that ends up on my card. When we do our review at the end of this show, I'll make a final decision. But at this point, Bengals +6. I enjoyed fading the Browns enormously in week 1. And I don't want that just to push me back in the same direction. There is your Thursday nighter. Rob, are you making an official bet yet? You don't have to. You can tweet out official bets anytime you want. But you're going to make an official bet right now on the Bengals +6. Dennis Garcia says DJ Reader is very important to keep an eye on, because imagine no Reader and no Geno. Are you going to make an official bet here?
I think I got to hold off. I might still play on this game, but right now I just don't. I can't buy in, but that is really enticing.
All right, let's move on to Giants-Bears. We're going to go through the 1 o'clock games here on Sunday, September 20th. We're going to go through all of them, but let's start with these 1 o'clock games. Giants-Bears, see what we are dealing with. This total opened up at 43. It's now 42 or 42.5. It opened up at Bet365 at -5.5. There is a 4.5 on the board. and a few fives. Bet365 has moved at the half point to the 5. And Bennett's Money says, how many times did you say to yourself last season, why did I take the effing Browns? I don't remember ever saying it, but we've seen the sharps on them year after year. And just a bookend of that Bengals spot is Birdie saying, Burrow said all the right things today. Thursday night, just another game. Meanwhile, the Browns are worrying about getting Odell the ball. They have a run-first coach. The messages are not adding up. Birdie's already bet the Giants plus 5.5. Giants' second straight game against a very tough defense. Saquon Barkley held to 6 yards on 15 carries by the Steelers. Slayton looked good. 6 receptions for 102 yards. Bears beat the Lions 27-23, and Maserati Mitch keeps his job. 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. He's held off Nick Foles for now. He keeps his job. 20 for 36, 242 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Robert Quinn inactive for the Bears. Not sure if he will be active come Sunday. There's Nasty Nate joining us. Gerald Jones leaning Giants here. Chicago laying no way. Bebsy, Giants, Bears, take it away.
Honestly, I got a feeling that Saquon gets a little bit of room in this game. As good as the Bears defense is, I think the Steelers defense is a lot better. They just need to find a way to get Saquon the ball in space. It's so sad because Barkley looks so much like Barry Sanders out there in the sense that they want to get him the ball, but they can't get him the ball without 4 guys already on top of him. So it's classic Barry. He loses 3 yards, he loses 2 yards, and then all of a sudden he pops off a huge one. I really think Saquon's going to get it done this year, and they got to figure out how to get him that ball, and they got to get him out in space. That's the only way that they're going to be able to move this ball. Yeah, Slayton looked pretty good, and when Danny Dimes didn't look terrible, he looked great. That touchdown pass to Slayton was a gorgeous ball. He spins it nice sometimes, and then he just makes boneheaded decisions. He's still bad at protecting the ball. I think they need to lean on Saquon as much as they can without, allowing them to just leave 8 in the box and just stack up on them all the time. Quinn being out is going to hurt the Bears. So I don't know. I'm kind of leaning the Giants here.
Seems like the betting public seems like the cappers in the chat are Dennis Garcia liking what he saw from the Giants. I'm not going to take the Bears at this favorite price, but I do think that they can build some momentum off that big comeback. Huge comeback. Outscoring.
Yeah, but it was a comeback against the Detroit Lions. It's not like they came back against the Kansas City Chiefs here. They came back against another team that just struggles. I mean, are we really going to put any eggs in the Trubisky basket?
No. This is the same as the Thursday nighter to me. This is a dog or pass. Brady says, like I said last week, Trubisky owns the Lions. He did in the end. Intech says Barkley plays angry this week. And it's already being jumped on the plus 5.5 by Birdie. It's now 5. I expect money to continue to come in on the Giants. What did you think about the Giants' defense against the Steelers' offense?
I thought they played okay. My question really comes down to, and I said this on the weekend show, is Big Ben looked good, but is he back fully from that elbow surgery? I don't think he is yet. I still think that Steelers offense isn't quite where it's going to be later on. So I'm not going to put too much stock into that for now. They played admirably, but it was just I don't know. It felt like both the Monday Nighters were sloppy games. Again, I'm not willing to put a ton of stock into what happened on Monday night. So I don't know. That's kind of in my opinion, it's a bit irrelevant.
So So, very interesting question here from Ben is Money. Where will Allen Robinson's head be at in this game? Does it matter enough to think about Allen Robinson demanding a trade? What do you make of that?
I don't think it's enough to think about. I think a lot of players, they want to get paid. A lot of players get frustrated. At the end of the day, Allen Robinson's a professional. He's going to show up and play football. Whether he keeps this up and he ends up getting his trade or getting out of there, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, the guy, for years he had Bortles, then he got hurt, then he came back, and now he's got Trubisky. I'd really like to see Allen Robinson with a capable quarterback because the guy really is a stud. But took all his Bears gear off social media.
And Birdie says he actually did not request a trade as per Schefter. It says he's annoyed at the offers the Bears have made to him thus far. Giants +5 seems like a real possibility to be on my card on Sunday.
I think I like the under in this game more than anything. I think we're going to look at, a Giants offense that's not very good. Certainly didn't play great in week 1, but, against that Steelers D. But the Bears defense is still a really, really solid defense, so they could hold them down. And I don't know. I don't see Biscuits having another good game.
It's a beautiful weather in Chicago on Sunday. We won't say that very much this year. Giants +5. I may add to my card an official play on this game for you, Bebsy. No need to force it. You're sitting 5-0.
No, again, I think I'm going to hold off on this one. No, it doesn't appeal to me too much.
All right, let's move on to Falcons, Cowboys, Atlanta, Dallas. See what we are dealing with from a market perspective here. This total opened up at 50. It's now at 52 or 52.5. Dallas opens up as 6.5-point favorites all the way down to 4-point favorites. Wow. Falcons open up the season with 38-25 loss, but they did outgain the Seahawks, 506-383. Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage all collected over 100 receiving yards. Atlanta came up short all 4 times they tried to convert on 4th down. Unbelievable. Matty Ice looked good, 37-54 for 450 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's the second highest yardage total of his entire career. It was the defense that just looked bad in crucial situations. And then with the Cowboys, Dak Prescott showed why he hasn't signed a massive extension. Another pedestrian performance to start the year. 266 yards and a touchdown, 3 points on 6 drives in the second half, 15 net yards on the final 10 plays of the game. It's just awful. Zeke goes for 96 yards and a touchdown. McCarthy, very questionable play calling throughout. I do not think he's the guy for the job. CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches for 59 yards in his first appearance. And injuries. Cowboys lose Leighton Vander Esch to a collarbone injury. Cam Irving and tight end Blake Jarwin both didn't return from knee injuries. Already the Cowboys are in trouble. Falcons, Cowboys, Bebsy, take it away.
Well, personally, this is a line I think they got wrong, because why are the Cowboys favored so much in this? They just lost to an average to maybe slightly above average Rams team. They lost Leighton Vander Esch, and I feel bad for the guy because I like him as a player. But here's a guy, when the Cowboys drafted him, I said, this guy broke his neck in college. Like, how do you draft a linebacker that early that broke his neck in college? His collarbone's broken now. Their tight end's out now. And I said this again a couple of days ago, they fired Garrett to hire Garrett. Like, it was such a weird lateral move that doesn't help them. I got to say, I'm on Atlanta. I think they clean up some of the mistakes that happened against a very talented Seattle team. I mean, Seattle's offense looked fantastic, but Yeah, I don't know. I think this line's going to move a bit, and I like the Falcons in this one.
It certainly has moved already. 6.5. We have one book hanging a 5, a few books hanging a 4.5, some books hanging a 4. It's moving very quickly. On the odds.com odds page here, let's see what we get. See if we can find something decent. And you can, but you have to pay for it. Bet America is still hanging the 5, but it's minus 127. Fox Bet is still hanging the 6, but it's at minus 118.
Open at 7.5.
That was the before Sunday's action. It opened at 7.5. Let's take a look at what like an offshore. So those are the licensed American books. Let's see what like an offshore would be offering, or what an offshore opened it at very quickly here. Let's go Dallas, Atlanta. Why don't we try Penny? Penny opened it up at 6. So you can still get the Falcons plus 6 at minus 118 at Fox Bet if that is something that interests you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd personally jump on that.
And do you want to make that an official bet?
Yeah, I think I do. I think that's an official bet for me. I just don't believe in Dak and the Cowboys, and I certainly don't think Mike McCarthy is the answer. I think it's going to be a difficult year for Dallas. Despite every year the fans, and it seems like too many people at the NFL Network seem to just want to back the Cowboys. But why? What have they done in 2 decades?
Wow. You will get a plus 6 at minus 118. If I wanted to make a move on it, Bet365 would give me a plus 4 at minus 110. And if I wanted to take it up to the plus 16, the plus 6, it would cost me minus 138. So just 20 cents more than the best line available. So it's not quite as bad as I made it out to be. Al Cervic says Atlanta all day. Noli No says Dallas always good for 8-8. Bebsy getting on the board plus 6 at minus 118. And I'm going to write down each book because I will tweet out your action so everyone knows and make sure they know what book you got it at. The plus 6 at minus 118 from Fox Bet. Plus 6 minus 118 from Fox Bet. Alrighty. And if you were offered it at plus 4 at minus 110, would you take it?
No, I'm less likely to jump on minus 4 just because that 6 is a nice little safety blanket.
The plus 6 is nice. So what did you see when you watched this Falcons team play? They had, 126 more yards than the Seahawks, and they were beaten soundly by this football team. Is this a team that you trust moving forward? Is Dan Quinn's job safe?
Well, I mean, a lot of people thought Dan Quinn was going to get fired last year, and they stuck with him. So I think he is on the hot seat, and they have to win. That defense is obviously going to play better. They got absolutely torched by the Seahawks. And, the Seahawks, they have a bad defense. Like, if you look at them, sure, they've got Jamal Adams now, but like I mentioned the other day, they lost Clowney. They lost Quentin Jefferson. They don't have the same defense that Pete Carroll has gotten accustomed to. But Atlanta does have a great offense. They've got great weapons. Gurley looked solid, but I mean, I think you got to keep him on a pitch count. But that defense has got to play a lot better for Atlanta. They've got to. Again, I think Seattle's offense might surprise some people this year. As long as they can stay healthy, as Carson can stay on the field, Metcalf can stay on the field. I told you about how much I love Lockett. And a lot of Mahomes fans are going to hate me for saying this, but I still think Russell Wilson is the best all-around quarterback in the NFL. The guy's an absolute stud, carries teams on his back every year. Mahomes is great, but his whole team is great. Wilson has put up points with utter garbage for years. So Atlanta's really got to clean up that defense, but I think they're going to play certainly a lot better this week against Dallas than they did against Seattle.
All right. I don't, just seeing that you're getting a 2-point better line than me, it's probably going to end up keeping me off of Atlanta. And that's something that affects my handicapping when I don't make a play out of spite, out of anger that there's such a better line than what I'm able to get. All right, let's move on to Lions-Packers. Lions-Packers up next. Detroit, Green Bay. Packers open up at -5.5. They're now 6s on the board at almost every book, but not every book. This total opened up at 46.5 and is shot up to 48.5 and 49. And now the 49.5s are on the board. Favre looked awesome against the inexperienced cornerbacks of the Minnesota Vikings. 364 yards, 4 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, 14 catches for 156 yards. He was all over the field. But, and there's a big but here, and that's the injuries to that offensive line for the Packers. You have Billy Turner didn't play with the knee injury. Then Lucas Patrick. So Elgin Jenkins comes in and replaces him. But then Lucas Patrick forced out in the second period, so Jenkins moves back to his original spot. Then they bring Rick Wagner over at right tackle. Then Lane Taylor, the right guard, taken off on a cart. So they have to bring in John Runyon. So why don't we start with that? How will that affect the Packers moving forward? And is it possible that we can take advantage of everybody seeing the points that they put up and not really studying what's gone on to the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I just wonder if that's not a bigger problem with a different quarterback. When you've got Aaron Rodgers, and as Intex 2016 is saying, Aaron Rodgers with a chip on his shoulder, the way he played in week 1 was spectacular. That was vintage Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know how much an injured O-line is going to ruin that. Their defense is a bigger question. Their defense, they got good edge rushers, but their linebacking core is suspect. I think that's a bigger issue for me than their injured offensive line because, as long as they got Bakhtiari healthy, protecting Rodgers' blindside, the guy he's so good at getting the ball out. He's still so good at maneuvering in and around the pocket. And, Green Bay seems to just churn out productive offensive linemen, unless they're facing a powerhouse rush, which they're really not with Detroit. There's some talent on that defensive front, but not so much they're going to kill Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know if that highlights a play for me. That I don't know if you're seeing something that other people aren't yet because of the injuries. You're right, that point total is going to make people pretty excited, but also, Detroit just blew a game to Mitchell Trubisky. Like, how do you have any faith in Detroit at this point?
Stafford goes 24 for 42, 297 yards. Hawkinson looks very good. Adrian Peterson, 93 yards on 14 carries. Something that he's not been able to do over the last few years is keep that momentum going. After he has a giant game, something that Whale Capper would do. After he would have like a massive 100-yard game, Whale Capper would take his under in the next game and cash every single time. Kenny Golladay and Jeff Okudah inactive with hamstring injuries. And then during the game, they lose starting cornerbacks Desmond Trufant and Justin Coleman to hamstring injuries. I don't want the Detroit Lions.
No, I definitely stay off the Lions. I mean, a lot of what I said about the Lions came true. And if you'll remember, I was big on Hawkinson. I really think that guy's going to have a big year, but I just don't see Detroit coming through in this game. Injuries to the O-line or not, I don't think that's going to be a huge effect. Traveling to Green Bay later in the year might be a bigger thing, but I would lean Packers to cover on this. I just there's enough uncertainty with that defense that I don't love this play. But again, gun to my head, I'm going Pack.
Ben's Money says a perfect overreaction to week 1 on both sides, and he might be absolutely right. We must be absolutely right. Sunny Springs joining us. Thanks for joining us. Also, Paco Healy. We got Jay Peach. Jay Peach says it's week 1, but Green Bay looks like Super Bowl material. The Lions play the Packers tough, and divisional game that I'm going to stay off of at this point. Do you agree with this market move towards the over? Are Packers going to be over darlings? 46.5 to 49.5, Bebsy.
If Aaron Rodgers keeps playing with his chip on his shoulder, you could see it. You could see them stacking up points. Devontae Adams looked fantastic, but that throw on the run, that dime he threw to Devontae Adams on the sideline or the edge of the end zone, that was just a beautiful run and catch. That was vintage Rodgers. It was such a beautiful play to watch. I don't think they're going to be firing up that many points. Like, let's not forget the interior of that secondary for the Vikings is great, but they're still so suspect at corner that I don't know if you can really get that excited about being torched.
So, you're going to develop relationships with these great cappers that I hang out with every day, and it's a lot of fun. And one guy, Noli, knows he's the man who's made unders great again. He's just always looking for unders. And he says, yes, Jimmy, I will not be looking to take unders with Green Bay. Jay Peach says Rodgers still has it. Uknatty says Rodgers looked great, but the Vikings defensive backs were terrible. They were. It's funny. Dennis Garcia makes an interesting point. He said Detroit blew the game to Arizona last year. Remember, it was at week 1, I believe. And I think they tied that game. Yeah. And then came back and beat the Chargers in week 2. Comfortable stay-off game. And so I'm off this one. Let's move on to Jags-Titans. Shout out to our Connor Mack, who put out his best bet play of the day article on odds.com and had the Jags to take care of business, and they win outright. It should have been on my card, should have been on our card, Bebsy. We talked about not trusting Phillip Rivers, and I guess the problem was we didn't trust the Jags. But let's talk about the guys that came through for the – first off, Minshew, 19 of 20, 173 yards, no turnovers. They get rid of Fournette, Ngakoue, Ronnie Harrison 2 weeks before the opener. Undrafted rookie James Robinson goes for 90, all totaled. 62 on the ground. He became the first undrafted rookie running back in 30 years to start week 1. C.J. Henderson had an interception. So their first-round pick, C.J. Henderson had an interception. Kaylavon Chason almost had one too. They both look great. And the Titans did just enough to squeak out a 16-14 win over the Broncos. The Sharps were all over the Broncos, and they were fortunate that Gostkowski is no longer that Hall of Fame kicker that we remember from the Patriots. Unbelievable. The Patriots go 8 for 18 on field goals last year. 44.4% on field goals last year, and then it's just that reoccurring nightmare with Gostkowski out there. So the last Titans or Oilers kicker to miss 3 field goals and extra point was Skip Butler, 1977. Jaguars, Titans. Let's see what we're looking at from a market perspective. Tennessee opens up at -11, and it's going down fast. -9s, -8.5s. This total's gone from 43 to 42. Jaguars, Titans. Should Titans be this big of a favorite, Pepsi?
No, Titans should not be this big of a favorite, and that's not my reaction to Jacksonville in week 1. That's my reaction to just the way the Titans play teams. Titans play good enough to beat people. They don't pound people into the dust. They ride Derrick Henry. They make sure they play a solid, tight game, and they don't blow teams out. This is a huge, huge spread to throw at a Jacksonville team that, showed week one. They're not just going to get tossed around. They put up points against a talented Colts defense. I don't think they're going to catch anybody by surprise now. I think maybe that had a little bit to do with it. I think it had more to do with the fact that Phillip Rivers looks like he can't throw a ball at all anymore. But I still think this is too high. Like,
has to be.
Yeah, look, Tennessee. I don't know. They barely beat a very banged up Broncos team that I'm still not sold on the Broncos being a good team, especially without Von Miller and Cortland Sutton. So this is a huge spread. I think this is an easy take on Jacksonville. I said this a couple of days ago. Beware the man who has nothing to lose, and Minshew has nothing to lose. Like, he is literally just playing, having fun out there. He's the least stressed out quarterback in the NFL right now, and it showed on Sunday.
Gerald Jones says Tennessee by this margin can't do it. This is not a team that's ever going to win by margin, is it?
No, they just don't play that way. They don't load up the score. They run that ball hard, and Tannehill's not a guy who can torch many defenses. So, this is not an overreaction to Jacksonville playing the way they did in week one. This has more to do with Tennessee for me, and just the fact that Jacksonville's got nothing to lose. This is an easy play for me. I think I'm on Jacksonville for this.
I want to jump on them too. Now, are we overreacting here? Birdie says no bet for me. Indy outgained them by almost 200 yards. Titans blew out the Jags last year. Jags are my team. No bet, but I lean Titans.
I appreciate what Birdie's saying, and he's made some good comments so far. I just don't believe in Tennessee blowing them out right now. They looked sluggish to me on Monday night. And yeah, it's just too big of a margin for me. I believe Tennessee wins this game. I just don't think they win it by 10.
Fox Bet gave you the best line on the Giants. They were the only ones. Was that the Giants? Sorry, the Falcons. Excuse me. The Falcons gave you +6 and -118. Here they give you the worst line. They've already moved it to 8. If you want a 9.5, there's only one available, and it's at BetMGM. Do you want the Jaguars +9.5 at BetMGM?
Yeah, I think I do.
+9.5. That's a very important number. It's still 9 right now at Bet365, and I'm going to take it. But getting the 9.5, getting that hook on top of the 9 is very, very important. So that's at BetMGM. An official play for Bebsy on the Jaguars +9.5 at BetMGM. Again, Bebsy is 5-0 to start the year, and he's made a move on the Falcons and made a move on the Jaguars. And I'm going to come along on the Jaguars. I won't get your 9.5. And I'm just going to get this 9. Again, just like I do with all sports. And look, I'm going to bet this at the end of the night. And if it's on at 9, then I don't get it at 9. You guys know how I run it. And I'm going to get what I bet it at. And I hope that's at 9. We'll see. I'm with the Jaguars. I think this is the play. Gerald Jones has it at 8. And Al Surik says, stop talking about Gostkowski, please. Yes, we will. And Bernie says, I get what Bebsy is saying and don't disagree. But last point, Jags got a massive win last week, and they won't be going 0-16. Letdown spot this week. And Jay Pete says, exactly, Tennessee looked awful, and they have kicker issues. This is just too many points. I don't see Tannehill as a quarterback or this offense, an offense that's going to just blow teams out. And I guess it comes down to that.
I mean, I could also see Tennessee being up by a lot, and then Minshew throwing up some garbage minute touchdowns to close this gap. I just think there's too many chances for Jacksonville to stay inside of 10.
Agreed. All right, we are on the board. Oh, but let's just quickly go back. You said that you had, I think you mentioned this total here. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this spot right now went from 43 and it's dropping to 42.5 or 42. You have a feel on this total?
No, I think I'd lay off that total. It's low, right where it should be. I don't see an obvious play there.
Let's move on to Vikings Colts. Vikings Colts, and man, did those young Vikings corners, we know they're all 23 and under because of this belief in their safeties. They got torched, absolutely torched in that game. This total opened up at 47. There's 47 and a halves. There's 48s. There's 48 and a halves. And the Colts are 3-point favorites, and that is across the board. That was the most points Minnesota's allowed since Coach Zimmer was hired in 2014. Cook rushed 12 times for 50 yards, 2 TDs, got two-point conversions, but didn't look very good. Now they were behind, so they had to air it out. So it wasn't really his spot. Thielen, 6 passes for 110 yards. Danielle Hunter, man, was he noticeable? Not in the lineup. Everson Griffin, gone. And then Ngakwe, we see why he was let go by the Jags. Guy was a complete non-issue. This was the first game in Minnesota where Favre was not sacked. I mean, they just couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback. Colts did not look good.
Favre?
Say what, buddy?
Favre?
Yeah. Oh, Favre. Did I say Favre?
Sorry. Yeah, that's the second time you said Favre. I let the first one go, but dude, you're 20 years in the past right now.
Sorry. I didn't sleep last night. Do I still see Favre out there?
I mean,
oh, God. Sorry. Colts, I am for it. Colts did not look good in the 20s. The Colts did not look good in the 27-20 loss at Jacksonville. Rivers goes 36 for 46 for 363 yards. And he entered the game with 20 TD passes and 1 interception against Jacksonville, but he's just old. Marlon Mack, done for the year with the Achilles injury. What did the Colts, it just blows my mind that they would sign him for $18 million. When I was the highest I've ever been on the Niners and the Seahawks, it was when they were paying their quarterbacks $800,000 and $1 million because they had all this extra cash to put into their team. What are the Colts doing? Wait, Brissett should be the guy. This is Colts -3. What do you think of this spot, Bebsy?
Well, I mean, I see weakness versus weakness here. I see Rivers throwing against terrible corners, and I don't know which way I lean, to be honest with you. I feel like we're gonna watch very ugly football this weekend in that game. Danielle Hunter was so heavily missed, but also their corners were just awful. Rodgers made them look their age, and by that I mean very young and inexperienced. But Rivers isn't going to do that. Rivers can't throw a ball anymore. That weird throwing motion has given out. His arm strength just can't make up for that terrible ball that he throws. And that was my biggest question mark with him is he going to be able to lead this team? Answer one was no. Week one, he was awful. And usually with these guys that are kind of fading with an arm, you see it down the stretch more than you do at the start of the year. They can kind of, with the rest and the off season, kind of trick you into thinking they still got it. Man, Rivers, they could bench an $18 million quarterback this year. I don't know. The only way that the Colts are winning right now is either putting in Brissett or they just got to ride Taylor. Hand him the ball. The guy's a bell cow in college. He should be able to handle a good load in the NFL. He's a tank. I would love to see them just try and run that ball behind Jonathan Taylor. It sucks that they lost Marlon Mack. That's a great 1-2 punch. That's going to hurt them. I'm personally staying off this game because I want to see. I want to see if Minnesota can play better. I want to see if Rivers maybe plays less shitty. But this is a game I don't love this game at all, or like this game at all.
Yeah, I agree. And Brady says this is a get through where we all bet against Rivers and they cover. Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Vikings, and I don't know what to make of the Colts. And I'm also not sold that the over is I I understand why it's pushing over.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm staying miles away from this game. I don't like the I don't like the over. I can see both of these teams struggling to put up points. I'm not interested in this game at all. I want to see what we have from A, the Minnesota defense, and B, I want to see if Phillip Rivers is going to play better. He's got to play better. He was atrocious on Sunday.
Okay, let's move on. I can't believe I'm calling him Favre. Oh man, I'm dealing with the insomnia is back. And
do you think Fran Tarkenton's going to have a good game this weekend?
Let's go to Bills Dolphins. I can't believe that's the second time I did it. You just let me roll through the first one.
I let the first one go because I was like, I don't know if too many people caught that. Let's leave Jimmy alone here. But second one, I just couldn't let it slide, bud.
Sorry. It's not like Rodgers is the young upstart. Okay, Bills Dolphins. Let's talk Bills Dolphins right now. Bills open up at -4. Market moving towards them. 5.5s on the board. They're 6s now. This total opened up at 41.5, and it's going down. We have 41s and 40.5s. Allen became Buffalo's first quarterback to hit 300 yards since Tyrod. Surprisingly, 3+ years, 27-17 win over the Jets. He looked dominant. Maybe dominant's a little much, but he looked very strong in the first half. 3 consecutive first half touchdown drives. Stephon Diggs looked very good, 8 catches for 86 yards. John Brown, 6 catches for 70 yards. This just looks like a complete team. And then we get to the injuries. Week 1, Matt Milano, hamstring injury. Tremaine Edmonds, shoulder injury. These are big holes early, and you're going to have to deal with adversity early. Dolphins opened up their season with a 21-11 loss at New England. This is our only loss so far on the show, was me taking the Dolphins at +7. And, we were sort of unfortunate. I mean, Fitzpatrick was being Fitzpatrick, but at +7, we could easily be sitting here 8-0. Everything changed offensively when Devontae Parker went down in the third quarter with a hamstring injury. It's not like they were rolling before. I mean, I shouldn't make it sound like that. But Fitzpatrick, 20 for 30 for 191 yards, 3 interceptions. They were held to 269 total yards. And then you have to look at these running backs, which we thought was going to be improvement this year. Gaskin looked okay, 9 rushes for 40 yards. But Breda, 5 rushes for 22 yards. I'm not sure why I didn't get more run. And Jordan Howard, just 8 rushes for 70 yards. Bills are favorites and becoming bigger favorites in this divisional game where they're on the road in Miami. Bills, Dolphins. Bebsy, take it away.
Well, I see Birdie just took the words out of my mouth with this. I think if you got on this right away, I might have taken the Bills at the open, but not so much now. And a lot of it has to do with if Tremaine Edmonds is out, that is such a catastrophic injury for that defense. He's so talented, so underrated, like all of the Bills are, but he's really the nucleus, the captain of that defense, with a ton of talent around him. Obviously, I'm not knocking, Trey White or that very talented defensive line, but I just, with him out, you saw that they became vulnerable against the Pats, especially because, he's a guy who could, shadow Newton, keep a spy on him. That really, really hurts this defense. And Miami, again, they're a team that's going to be better than they were last year, but I can't buy into them yet. I mean, Breda did exactly what I thought he was going to do, which is he's not going to be great in that system. He was great in Kyle Shanahan's system because they could get him wide open. He doesn't run well between the tackles. He can't handle a big load. I don't think that's a massive upgrade for them. And if Parker is out, if he's nursing that hamstring injury, I don't know how they move the ball. This is another game I don't love. And I don't know how much I believe in Allen and Diggs in week 2. Yeah, great performance in week 1, but they also shot out of the gate like so well and then just completely slowed down, offense and defense. So I don't know. This is a game that I'd like to sit back and watch. I think the only play left here is possibly the under. What are we sitting at? That under is really low. Yeah, I don't know. I'm staying off this game personally.
I do not want to sit here with big road favorites in a divisional game. So certainly not what I'm going to start the year with week 2. I'm off this Bills Dolphins. Let's move on to Niners Jets. A lot of people think this is an angry Niners squad that's going to roll in and smash the Jets. The market thinking that as well. Some books have already moved this to 7.5. Open at 6.5. Mostly 7s on the board. Total opens up at 43.5. 42.5s out there, and 42s. And Gerald Jones says Buffalo rolls. Let's talk about the spot. Jimmy G taking a lot of heat. Birdie says I've already bet the under 42.5. Jimmy G taking a lot of heat. 19 for 33, 259 yards.
He did not look well, especially in the second half. He looked terrible. First half, everything was going right for the Niners. They shot out to a 10-0 lead. And then that blocked punt really took the wind out of their sails. That block punt, and then right after it, they just waltzed in for a touchdown. But they're playing the Jets this week. The Jets are a bad football team with the worst coach in the NFL and maybe even in the CFL. I think you could take any CFL coach right now who's not working and plug them into New York, and they'll play better than they will under Gase. I don't know if Jimmy G is overrated. I don't. Does anybody say anything good about him these days? I mean, if anything, he's rated exactly where he should be. He wins. I mean, his record as a starter is 23-7. You can't argue that because they were 4-20 with the same team over that same stretch. So it's hard to say because Debo is now out until at least week 4. Ayuk is back in camp or back in at practice, but who knows? And then Kittle's going to be a game time decision. He had a knee sprain. I don't know. I don't think you can bet on a team with so many question marks. They just signed Mohamed Sanu a couple hours ago. Yeah. I think that can't hurt them. But yeah, Jimmy didn't look confident. He didn't look decisive. And, he's been a guy who's taken some heat, but always seemed to bounce back. He just did not look very good. But I also didn't love Kyle Shanahan's game plan. Like, they really got away from the run when they didn't need to. Mostert was tearing it up. So, if they stick to the run and just let Jimmy G be a game manager, then they got a chance to blow out the Jets this week. But there's so many injuries. There's injuries to that Niners front. That's a thing that a lot of people, don't notice, that they're on their third string center. And Hronis Grasu came off the practice squad earlier that day and became their starting center. So that's not going to make a quarterback comfortable. Unless Garland is back, that's still going to have problems in the middle. Their tackles were fantastic. I don't know how many times I watched Trent Williams destroy Hicks. Like, that block, I think I watched it 50 times at halftime. He blew him up. It looked like me running into a 5-year-old at full speed. It was incredible. But, that interior offensive line is a real question mark for them. So I think you stay off this game until you see how the injuries shape up towards the end of this week.
There was a lot of questionable decisions made in that game by the Niners. But offensively, we'll get into some of the questionable decisions. Offensively, I think that Shanny's hands were sort of tied when Kittle got hurt, and he did come back in the second half. He wasn't even targeted in 30 snaps in the second half.
No, and he wasn't playing full out. He's clearly wasn't. That guy's so tough that he was playing on a sprained knee, and I think if anything, he was a decoy in that second half.
Agreed. And then Richie James got hurt. Niners only had 3 healthy wide receivers. So there's a lot going wrong. And then I don't understand why Sherman wasn't on Hopkins all game. When Hopkins was on Mosley, he had 10 catches for 96 yards. There was 15 plays that Sherman defended Hopkins, and he had 3 catches on 22 yards.
Yeah, they've got to move Sherman around more, and they actually started to. I think he played more snaps on the other side in Sunday's game than he did all of last year. So that's something they did get wise to that. But I mean, you mentioned this a minute ago. Like they're just so thin at wide receiver right now. They're down their top 3 wide receivers. Jalen Hurd was supposed to be their starting slot. He's down for the year with an ACL tear. Debo was obviously supposed to be their number 1, and he's out till week 4, and Ayuk didn't play. So there's just so many injuries on that receiving core that, they have to rely on the run. They have to get Jordan Reed into the game more, especially if Kittle doesn't play. And to be honest with you, I don't think they should play Kittle. He's too valuable to run out there on a wonky knee and possibly make this worse. Just play a hard running game and rely on that and just beat the Jets. But this is a line I'm not going anywhere near because plain and simple injuries and you don't know who's going to play because they're week to week, day to day kind of injuries. So you stay off it.
Well, let's talk about the Jets a little bit. Very little went right in that 27-17 loss. They opened with 3 3-and-outs. They combined for 23 yards of offense and 1 first down. 23 yards of offense and 1 first down on their first 5 possessions. They look bad. Darnold goes 21 for 35 for 215 yards. Jamison Crowder went for 117. Le'Veon Bell gets clearly hurt, and Gase brings him back in. Now he's out for 4 weeks. And they also lose linebacker Blake Cashman to a groin injury. I mean, look, I don't want the Niners with this big of a favorite. What do you expect? What are your expectations of the Jets moving forward?
I expect the Jets to potentially be even worse than they were last year. And I think a lot of it has to do with Adam Gase. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say I could potentially do just as good or better as the head coach of the Jets than Adam Gase right now, just because I think the players might like me more. I don't see how anyone can play for that jackass. He's so bad at his job. It makes no sense. If he's not fired by week 6, the Jets deserve everything that's coming to them. I feel bad for Sam Darnold. He has no weapons. He has no coach. The best thing he's got right now is a 37-year-old Frank Gore. Bless him. Please protect Frankie. Be good to him. But this is just a bad coached team with no weapons, no real protection for Sam Darnold, and a defense that's not going to be good either. They're an awful, awful football team, and they're going to be drafting in the top 3 next year. So if the Niners weren't so banged up and traveling across the country, I would love to take this bet, but I'm staying off it. I just expect a terrible, terrible Jets team. And if they somehow pull out a win against the Niners, then the Niners should just tank for Trevor.
Well, this spot, Birdie comparing it to when the Niners went across and faced the Redskins. I mean, it was a real rainy day last year, but it was 6-3 final score. The weather's pretty nice in New York on Sunday, 68 Fahrenheit.
No, that was a 9-0 final score.
9-0.
Yeah.
12 miles per hour is the wind. 68 Fahrenheit. Is this under calling us, screaming at us?
It's not a bad under because that Jets team is not going to move the ball against the Niners D. The Niners D, actually, they played really well until they got tired last week. And they have historically struggled against dual threat QBs. And also, there were some pretty soft roughing the passer penalties that really drove. They got 65 yards in penalties on one drive. And that defense just got tired because the offense couldn't put together a single good drive, midway through that game, and then Kyler just took advantage of it. That was a gassed defense. That's because of the pandemic and because of everything. None of these teams are really in playing shape yet. So yeah, if there is a play here, it's the under.
Well, I'm going to make a move on it. I think it's going to get lower throughout the week. I'm going to make a move on this under 42.5. And I expect Center to do nothing. But I mean, sure, it'll help because you need healthy wide receivers. All right, let's keep rolling here. And a lot of talk about what's going on in Heat Celtics. We're talking gridiron, Rams, Eagles. Let's move on to Rams, Eagles, see what we are dealing with from a market perspective. Man, thank God I didn't bet on the Eagles. I came so close to. Holy. The Eagles open up at 3.5-point favorites. I bet 365. They're now 1.5-point dogs to the Rams. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild.
Hey, what did I say? Beware that Washington defense. That's eight sacks, man. That is a nasty, nasty defensive front.
There was about 5 or 6 minutes when the Eagles ranged in their win probability from 91 to as high as 97.3%. When they kicked the ball on a 4th and 3 with 3 minutes, 10 seconds remaining to the Redskins 27, they're up 17-0, and they had a win probability of 97.3%. They don't score another point. They lose 27-17, went sacked 8 times, threw 2 interceptions. That offensive line looked terrible. Jack Driscoll and Nate Herbig started their first career games and looked bad. The injuries are mounting. I mean, just the inactives for that game. You have Johnson, Sanders, Barnett, and Hargrave. Then you lose Curry in the fourth quarter. Brendan Graham evaluated for a head injury. I mean, you lose Driscoll in the fourth quarter. I mean, this is a...
Well, and they also lost Brooks for the season, and he was the best guard in football last year, next to maybe Zach Martin. But, yeah, the Eagles are so banged up right now. I don't know. I feel like leaning towards the Rams in this. The Rams, they're a mediocre team, but I think the chips are falling in the right place right now. And at 1.5,
they're traveling across the country on a short week. But let's talk about these Rams. Brown rushes for 79 yards and 2 TDs. Goff goes 20 for 31 for 275 yards. Woods 6 catches for 105 yards. Akers 39 yards on 14 carries. Not great. They're pretty much healthy. They lose Gerald Everett to a back injury in the second half. Wow. Brady says, did anyone see what Donald was doing to those Cowboys O linemen? It was dirty. He was destroying them.
Oh, I mean, there's the absence of Jason Frederick there. Like that was exploited so perfectly by Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's the best player in the NFL. Like, no question about it. Offense, defense, the guy's just absolutely incredible. He's a man playing against boys. And what's he going to do against this battered Eagles offensive line? Like they've got an Aaron Donald problem on their hands right now because Aaron Donald could take Carson Wentz out of that game in the first quarter.
Wow. And it's OT that in the Celtics Heat game. I came so close to taking that over all day, and I didn't. Okay, Rams, Eagles. Do we go ahead and pull the trigger on the Rams squad that beat the Cowboys on a primetime game and has a short week and has to travel all the way to the East Coast?
I don't think you do, but somebody's forcing you to make a play, I would say you do. Because here's the other thing about the Rams winning this week is they beat the Cowboys, and I don't know if I like the Cowboys. Yeah. I think the Cowboys and the Eagles are pretty comparable teams this year as far as what they're going to be able to do. And, the Rams, they won by I thought it was a legit penalty, but some people argued that PI that really changed the outcome of that game. But like you said, they're traveling across country, which is going to hurt them a bit. But I don't know if I like the play at all. But if you do, I look at Aaron Donald just wrecking this game, and the Rams are going back to what they did a couple years ago, I think, which is rely heavily on their run game. If they run a 1-2 punch with Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers, I think I think they can be successful. It's obviously not Gurley and, pre-injury Gurley, but I don't know. I don't like this game at all.
Yeah, I don't want to take the slight road favorite traveling across the country on short rest, but Mark Rosado says if you like the Eagles, you think the line will keep going up. Yeah, if you like the Eagles, I'd wait. I would sit back and wait.
Yeah, but I don't like the Eagles. I mean, I like the Rams. I just don't like them enough to jump on this, mainly because of traveling on a short week.
Agreed. And Pie Guy saying, yeah, but the Eagles have a history of wrecking the Rams. All right, let's move on to Broncos Steelers. We have two more games on the 1 o'clock time slate. Broncos Steelers is next. Denver, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh opening up at -5.5 and now -7.5. Birdie on our show this morning, so we're Tuesday night opening line show. On Tuesday morning, Birdie said, get on Pittsburgh right away. They were just -6 at the time, and I was just had so much work to do. Birdie says Steelers -6, and it is bet. Man. All right. Well, let's start with the Broncos. Fangio was absolutely terrible. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion there in the last minute and a half. What, he's not calling timeout? Why is he not calling timeout? Why is he not calling? Like, I couldn't. Sitting there with 3 timeouts with 13 seconds left, he looks. I mean, I don't know why he wasn't open hand slapped on the sidelines. I don't know how anyone could have any confidence in him whatsoever. And it was just a debacle. That was some of the dumbest decision making that I can remember. Watching Fangio just sitting there staring while the clock was ticking down. Broncos lose Von Miller before the season starts. You talked about Von Miller gone, Cortland Sutton gone, both last week. KJ Hamler, their second-round pick in the draft, the receiver, out. Philip Lindsay, foot injury. Bouye, shoulder injury in the first half and didn't return. Now they're a complete mess.
Mess. There's not a lot left of these Broncos that people couldn't stop talking about in the offseason about how they were, going to be this year's version of last year's Niners, where they just come out of nowhere. But I look when they traded away, or not traded away. I guess Chris Harris. Did Chris Harris leave in free agency, or did he get traded? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, that was the first domino, and then now you just look at the injuries piling up, and like you said, Fangio. I got a soft spot for Fangio, but that was terrible, and his explanation didn't do anything to help him out. It just looked like a man who didn't quite understand the situation. I don't have any faith in the Broncos at all. I didn't before any of this. I really thought the hype surrounding them was insane. Jerry Jeudy did really flash. He looked at times. You saw why there was so much hype around him coming out of the draft. The guy's just got beautiful footwork, and he's going to be a star in this league. But the loss of Sutton is huge. I didn't hear what's actually happened. I know it's a sprained AC joint, a shoulder injury, but what are they saying with him? He was still looking at surgery. Is there a chance he plays? Because if he plays, that's a big thing. But I'm not really sure what that injury is. The status of it, anyways.
Yeah. Sprained AC joint?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I do kind of I agree with Dennis Garcia. Pittsburgh's a bit overrated at this number. I jumping on it early before it got up to over a touchdown, but I mean defensively they're fantastic and they'll be better offensively with Big Ben back, but they still don't really have great weapons. I've never really been sold on James Conner. I think he's good, not great. I think they've got Juju, who's great, and I had a big draft crush on Chase Claypool, maybe because he's Canadian, who knows? But I think he'll wind up being very good. But Yeah, I'm with Birdie here. Don't bet it at 7.5. I think the opportunity's potentially gone to get it where Birdie got it. But I mean, I like Pittsburgh in this. Not enough to take them at 7.5 though.
Roethlisberger goes 21 of 32 for 229 yards. Connor leaves the game in the second half with an ankle injury. They lose 2 guards. They lose Stefan Wisniewski and Zach Banner to injuries. There's Robert Allen joining us. Kyle Bogart. We got Lily Gunn, half of the Vegas Gun Award for excellence in capping, joining us. We got Royalty joining us, Lily Gunn. I agree. Birdie tried to give me the 6, and I was just too overwhelmed to take it this morning. Show up, 6 hours later, 7 hours later, and it's gone. This total here is at 41 and a half or 42. It's dropping fast. Do you have any lean on the total?
I mean, it just feels it feels low, but I don't think we are going to get many points in this. I don't see either team really lighting it up, but it's just too low for me to jump on that either. In text saying Connor had a better offensive line his rookie year. It's true. He had such a talented offensive line that people bought in so hard on James Conner. And, I think he's fine. I don't think he's dynamic. I don't think he can put his head down and run. He kind of reminds me a lot of Melvin Gordon in that he's not special, but he's fine. And
the 41 and a half, 42s are, there's 142 left. Sorry. I thought they were all gone. There's 142 left. I think this under's in play.
It could be. I'd be more inclined to play the under if Von Miller wasn't out.
No doubt. I think the under's in play. I expect to make a move on the under. All right, let's move on to Panthers Bucks. This is our last 1:00 game. Panthers Buccaneers. Then we move into the afternoon games, Sunday night game and the Monday night game. Panthers Buccaneers. Bucks open up at -8.5. Now they're 9 or 9.5. This total opens up at 48. Now it's 48.5. Let's start with the Panthers. Weak defense, questionable play calling haunts the Panthers. 34-30 loss. Joe Brady in the most important spot in the game, 4th and inches at midfield. He doesn't call McCaffrey. He calls Alex Arma, and it's just a shocking decision. Shocking decision. Rule, helped take the blame for it, but you just can't do that. There's a reason why you pay McCaffrey the big bucks. 134 yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns. He's got to have the ball there. Bridgewater looked good enough. 22 of 34, 270 yards, 1 touchdown. And then let's go over to Brady. Threw 2 picks, and he padded his numbers in garbage time. But the first 54 minutes, he was 15 of 28 for 157 yards. Not only that, but the Saints were flagged 4 times for defensive pass interference. Evans played after missing practice with the hamstring injury. 1 catch, a 2-year-old touchdown. Ronald Jones, 17 carries for 66 yards. Fournette, 5 carries for 5 yards. Should the Buccaneers be this big of a favorite?
Absolutely not. I don't know. People jumped on Tampa because of Brady, because of Gronk. And, I said it the other day. I said, Brady's in a new system. Doesn't have the same old line he used to have. He doesn't have the same chemistry he has with receivers. Look, he missed some open receivers. I don't look. A lot of people were joking that the Bucs spent a lot of money and got a lot of hype to go 8-8. And joke or not, I kind of think that's where they land. And the Panthers offensively surprised me, at least in week 1. I thought, I don't know if they surprised me so much as they did better than I thought they would. I knew they had a lot of talent, but I didn't think they were going to do that well. And I just think the spread is too big to hold down that Panthers offense that looked good. Their defense still looked terrible. That's going to be a concern. It's going to help Tom look a little better this week, but I think somebody said to me the other day, Tom Brady has thrown a pick six in 3 straight games. He doesn't have the zip on the ball, and he's playing in the wrong offense, talent or not, weapons or not. He's playing in the wrong offense to have a floppy arm. So I don't love Tampa running away with this. I don't see it as a good spot to, what are they, 9.5?
Yeah, there are 9.5s out there. Let me see what the best spot I could give you here. Panthers, Buccaneers, a ton of 9.5s, mostly 9.5s. Plus 9.5. The lowest juice is minus 110 at FoxBet and BetMGM. Is that official?
I don't know if it's official. I still don't know how I feel about it. I don't think Brady's going to play as bad as he did last week. I mean, let's not pretend that the Saints aren't a fantastic team. I mean, they were probably the second best team in the NFC last year, and they got better. So I don't know about this. Like, it's such a big spread. I want to take the Panthers, but I still think that Panthers defense is just awful.
Robbie Allen says Tampa is going to take the Panthers lightly. They're going to stop McCaffrey, make Bridgewater beat them, and score 31 points, probably 31-21 game. Tampa wins. I'm getting 9 in my book, and I'm going to take it. Plus 9 for the Panthers. You don't have to force official plays. You have started the year 5-0. You've made 2 already on the card. No need to force anything. And Birdie says, agreed, Bebsy, such an overreaction to Breeze that Bucks D is getting no credit. Are you going to stay off making this official, Bebsy?
I don't know. When it comes back around at the end of the show, I might have a difference of opinion, but right now I'm staying off it.
Viper NB is on the over 48.5. That's a look that makes sense to me, although, that the Bucks D is going to be tough this year. What do you think of this total?
I think, I'd lean towards the over as well, just because I was impressed by Carolina's offense in week 1. But, again, I don't want to get too excited about week 1s, especially with I don't think the Raiders defense is terrible. I think they are better than they were last year, and I think they will get better. They didn't play great in week 1, but again, trying to stop Christian McCaffrey is such a difficult thing to do. And I know what you're saying, Jimmy, about not giving McCaffrey the ball at 4th and 1, but the flip side of that is if he doesn't go McCaffrey and they convert, then all of a sudden they're talking about what a genius move that was. Everyone thought it would go to McCaffrey. So sometimes that pays off and sometimes it doesn't. I don't hate the play. I understand, you put the ball in your game breaker's hands, but I don't hate that call as much as it seems like everyone else did. But maybe, who knows? I'm a psychopath. Whatever.
I like the spot for the Panthers. If I had a free play, I certainly would take the over 48.5, but I'm not as high. I'm low on this Raiders defense. And we'll get into them. Those are the 1:00 games. We will go over and review all of our action before we put a bow on this show. Let's move into the 405 spot. The Washington football team at the Cardinals. Man, Kyler, you look good. And he just keeps getting better. And guy's got a work ethic. It's a dangerous Cardinals team. They open up as 6.5-point favorites. A lot of books have moved to 7. Not all the books. Probably 40% of the books. Total opened up at 45. Now we see 46.5. 14 passes to Hopkins for 151 yards. He throws for 230 yards. He runs for 91. Very impressive. Redskins, giant rally from that 17-point deficit. Their defense looks extremely strong. Their front 7 looks very dangerous. Peyton Barber runs for 2 touchdowns, and Haskin leads the way in Ron Rivera's debut. Redskins, Cardinals. Bebsy, you making a move here?
First of all, it's the Washington football team, but settle down, Favre. I don't know. I really like Kyler Murray. I think he's an absolute stud. I do think that there was some incredibly soft roughing the passer calls on him that I don't know if he's going to get those every week. That certainly helped him. And I also think this defensive front for Washington is healthier than the Niners front and maybe better equipped right now to chase him down, which is why I don't love the -7. Kyler's phenomenal. They're full of weapons, but their defense really didn't do much to impress me. They got torched a few times early in the game. It really looked like they were going to get blown out by San Francisco, and then Shanny got away from the game plan. So I think this right now is an overreaction to Arizona's week 1. And maybe not giving Washington enough love for what they did in week 1. Haskins didn't put up a great line, but he still played a decent football game. And, he looked like a guy that the team was believing in. They were hyping up the fact that he was over on the sidelines with the defense, hyping them up, which, I think is good leadership, which makes me think, I don't know if Alex Smith is in his ear helping him out, but I don't know. I think this is an overreaction to week 1, giving Arizona -7 on this.
Interesting. I gotta watch Washington more. I was like shock and awe seeing them come back against the Eagles. Although I had no money on it, I was still I couldn't believe my eyes with this comeback. And Rivera's got to feel good about it. Haskins got to feel good about it. This defense must feel good about it. This is a stay off at this point for me.
Yeah, here's the thing with Arizona. I don't think Arizona beat the Niners. I think the Niners beat themselves. They played terrible ball at times, and terrible decisions were made. At no point in that game, right up to the very end, did I think Arizona's going to win. They got a ton of hype in the offseason, and I don't know if they're there yet. And again, the Washington football team is probably getting – it was a huge win, Bertie. It was a huge, huge win for the Cards, but it was a huge win for both teams, yeah. This is a game I'm staying off of because I just want to see – what both these teams are for real. 1 week is not enough to judge two teams I was completely I thought Washington would be worse, but I did like that front. So I still want to see more from these teams before I start making plays on them.
And I'm going to stay off the total as well. You have a lean to that total?
What are we at here for the total?
It's opened at 45. It's now at 46.5.
If anything, it seems a bit high, but I got to stay off this.
Mr. Sticky Fingers going Washington or pass, and I'm just going to stay off. Let's go to Chiefs-Chargers. Chiefs-Chargers. Chiefs open up at -7.5. Now they're 8.5 or 9. Total opens up at 50.5 and drops to 47.5 because we all watch Tyrod Taylor do what he does, not make mistakes. And that's about it. The Chiefs, though, look like Super Bowl champs, man. Wow. They looked awesome. Just threw 211 yards from Mahomes, 3 TDs, but Edwards-Helaire looked just a monster. Kelsey, Watkins, Tyreek Hill each catch TD passes. They've won 10 straight dating back to last season. They lose Kalen Saunders, defensive tackle, in the first quarter to an elbow injury. Okafor hurt his hamstring in the third, did not return. Charvarius Ward left in the fourth quarter with a hand injury. And Tyrod Taylor just does what he does. He puts us to sleep with conservative football and doesn't turn the ball over. 16 of 30 for 208 yards. Bosa and Ingram held Burrow to 192 yards, 3 sacks, but no Derwin James. And Burrow didn't exactly test the secondary. Pouncey inactive with a hip injury. Feeney moved to center. Forrest Lamp took his spot. Trey Turner out with a knee injury, replaced by Ryan Groy. And Drew Tranquil, the linebacker, hurt his left ankle and was carted off in the first quarter. Looked serious. Chiefs, Chargers, Bebsy, what do you think here?
What did you get for the spread here?
It's going up fast. It opened at 7.5. You can get either 8, 8.5, or 9, depending on where you shop.
I mean, I'm jumping on 8, and I'm jumping on it hard. I think we're going to see from this Chiefs team a lot of what you saw in the Patriots years when they had Welker and Moss, and they just dominated teams. I mean, I think he got a jump on this game. The last, like I said this before, the last few years, the Chargers have really been slow out of the gates, and to not take advantage of and beat up on Cincy week 1 and now entering week 2 with more injuries, I'm jumping on this. I love the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs are going to win by. I mean, I could consider even taking it higher, but I like to play a little bit conservative out the gates. But yeah, I love the Chiefs at -8 here. I think they roll, and yeah, they'll just beat up on the strengths of the Chargers, and that's all there is to it. I think this is still an easy play.
There's 1-8 left at Bet Rivers at -115. Official play for you, Chiefs -8 at Bet Rivers -115.
Absolutely.
Birdie says this is our first head-to-head, Bebsy.
So I like it, Birdie.
And I'm sure Birdie's going to wait. I'm sure Birdie will just sit back and wait, see what line he can get here. His money is just going to keep going in on these Chiefs. Let's see what I'm getting at Bet365 right now. 8.5. 8.5 at -110. The issue here, Birdie, and I'd love to hear your breakdown. I look forward to hear it throughout the week. Lily says the line will go up Sunday. The Joes out there love their favorites. You know that, Lily. And the issue is, how are the Chargers going to fire back?
Yeah, I just don't see them putting up much. Like, if you can't put up very many points against the Bengals, you're not going to do any better against the Chiefs. You know, and Tyrod's not a guy who's going to light it up in garbage time either. I think this is a blowout by KC here, and I still think this is an easy play.
Very, very interesting. If I want it, I'd get it at 8.5 at -110. Which doesn't sound so bad. Dennis Garcia saying 31-13-ish. He's already on the under 49. What do you think of that total that's dropping quickly to 47.5?
I don't know. The Chiefs have enough firepower to put up that on their own. So it's going. You said it's going down. I'm seeing it going up here.
This total for the Chargers game opened up at 50.5.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong line here. I'm an idiot.
50.5 of Bet365, and it's dropped all the way down to 47.5 or 47.
You know what? I love the Chiefs at -8 so much. I'm staying off that total. I don't want to. Birdie, you are on an island, bud, and I appreciate you taking that stand. I can't I can't get into it.
All right, we have 3 games left on the card before we've attacked each and every one of them. Next up, Ravens, Texas, that other AFC monster. Ravens open up at 6.5. They're now at -7 on the road at Houston. Jackson threw for 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, completed 20 of 25, picked up 45 yards on the ground. They looked so good. Alex Ramirez joining us. Thank you for joining us, Alex. Ronnie Stanley left in the third quarter with the ankle injury. Their tackle, he didn't come back. Cornerback Jimmy Smith added to the injury list Sunday morning as questionable, but he avoided the inactive list and played. But they look awesome. The question is, how bad are the Browns? That's the question. Deshaun Watson threw a touchdown pass, ran for another score, but he was under pressure. And, you know, we were on that over 28.5 rush yards. He wasn't leaving the pocket to ensure first downs, but they had a spy on him all the time, so it wasn't very easy. David Johnson was a bright spot, 77 yards in the score. They lose Duke Johnson in the fourth quarter with a leg injury. We don't know what his status is right now. Brett Parker also joining us. Great to see you, Brett. Ravens, Texas, Bebsy, what do you think here?
I mean, it's hard not to, even against the Browns, it's hard not to be impressed with what the Ravens did. And I mean, in the regular season last year, the Ravens were just absolutely unstoppable. It's hard not to take the Ravens here. They looked so good week one. Houston, I really wonder. I'm really still confused at what we're going to get out of that team this year. That Chiefs game ended up being closer than it was. They just got absolutely dominated, I thought. I feel bad for Watson. Man, I want to jump on this. I think I like the over in this too. Just the way the Ravens have been able to put up points. Oof.
But are Houston going to be able to help out enough? Open at 53. It's now down to 51.5.
People are betting it down, eh?
They are. They are. Birdie says the Chiefs game next week is circled, highlighted on all the Ravens players' schedules. This is a look-ahead spot, and I'm waiting for this line to go up.
Huh. That's an interesting call. Robert Allen, Watson, most overrated QB in the league.
I'm a Watson fan. I didn't like what I saw week one. There's Dave Burke in the house, great comedian, Dave Berkey rolling with us. Dennis Garcia agreeing with Birdie. Dennis Garcia also saying thing with Baltimore as they get a lead, they get more conservative in the second half. We saw that.
Yeah, I mean, Baltimore certainly has the firepower to just roll. I wonder if the addition of J.K. Dobbins is just really what they need to continuously pump teams. Man, and Mark Andrews right away back up to their old tricks. They looked so good. It's hard not to take the Ravens on this, even at 7. I don't know. It's such a tough play because I know what I'm getting with the Ravens. Despite them beating up on the poor Browns in week one, it's hard to judge week one DeAndre Hopkins-less Texans versus the champs. Like, it's just so hard to see how bad they're going to be. And they did. They looked bad. They looked out of sync. That offense looked sluggish. They looked like they were without DeAndre Hopkins.
I wonder if Buzznuts has it right, taking Baltimore first half minus 3.5 before they get stationary and conservative.
I mean, I like that play, Buzznuts.
I like it too. Take the Ravens early. I like that too. Ravens first half minus 3.5. It's just so good.
Yeah, I mean, they just have so much firepower right now. It's nuts. And J.K. Dobbins, man, that guy's only going to get better. I felt like he was overlooked in the draft, and I'm not sure why. He didn't get the same hype that some of the other backs coming out did. And man, the guy's a stud.
Yeah, I'm going to make a move. I'm going to tail Buzznuts. Take that Ravens first half minus 3.5. Any official plays for you here, Bebsy?
Staying off it because I want to watch more of the Texans and see if they are really going to fall apart without Hopkins. Yeah.
All right.
Pie guy with bonehead Bill O'Brien will give you an easy cover. You're not wrong. I'm the only person I hate more than Bill O'Brien is Adam Gase. So.
All right, let's go. Patriots, Seahawks. This line has just come out recently. Seahawks open at minus 3. There is 3.5s on the board. This total sitting at 44. Wilson did anything he wanted. 4 touchdown passes, 38-25 win, passed to 9 receivers. 31 of 35 for 322 yards. God, he's good. Seahawks threw on 21 of their first 35 plays. That is very un-Seahawk-like. Wilson passed on 7 of 12 first down plays. And he ran it himself twice. So there were only 3 handoffs in those situations. That is very different than what we saw last year. And their only injury issue is Rasheem Green. Their defensive end went out in the first half with a shoulder injury. And we know that their defense is weak. Cam Newton opened the era with the Patriots with a 21-11 win. And a good-looking yellow suit. He rushed for 15 times for 75 yards and 2 TDs. Threw for 155 yards. The 75 yards that he ran for was the most by a Patriots quarterback since Steve Grogan in 1977.
You mean Steve Grogan's not starting this weekend?
I know. I still see Steve out there in those gorgeous oranges. There we go. Patriots, Seahawks. What do you think here, Bebsy?
I don't think I learned anything about either of these teams in week 1. I saw the Seahawks take advantage of a bad defense. I saw the Patriots win a Patriot-style game against, a not a very good Dolphins team. I don't know enough about either one of these teams to really love a play here. Russell Wilson is not going to do the Patriots defense what he did to the Falcons defense. But also, I don't know how much New England is going to move the ball against. I think Seattle's defense is comparable to Miami's defense right now. And nothing I really saw out of New England last week inspired me to think that they can put up a ton of points. I can't wait to watch this game. It'll be great. It'll be great to watch Bill Belichick's new team play Russell Wilson, basically. I don't have any faith in Pete Carroll anymore. Pete Carroll, I think, has lost his marbles. But this is a game that I'm going to watch, but I have no interest in making a move on. I don't think we know enough about either one of these teams, especially not after week 1.
Bet365 opened the Seahawks at -4. I don't want that. If there was a 3 available, I'd probably take it. But 4, that might be just a little much. Birdie saying Seahawks are great up the middle. I think they stopped the run. Can Newton throw and win? If the Pats are for real, or Pats are for real if you can. And we may find great betting spots on the Pats moving forward. Well put. Well put. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Dennis Garcia saying elite coach for his league's best quarterback, and Watson can't wait. That's from our Dennis Garcia.
Yeah, fully agree with Dennis on this. This is going to be a fun game to watch, but it's not going to be a fun game to bet on. I'm staying off of this, but man, I really want to see what both of these teams are made of, and I think we'll get a better idea after this week.
This total is up to 45 at Bet365. What do you think of that number? I think under is my first feel, but I'm going to sit with it for longer.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, it's high right now because of how many points Seattle put up in week 1. But like I said, nothing about this weekend showed me enough about either of these teams to continue to making guesses. If anything, I'm more confused about Seattle.
Yeah, I'm looking for this. Is going to be great fun. Scooty and Ricky Butt channel. Yes, we are going to be in action tomorrow morning. We are Xing the Saturday shows for myself. I'm going to be doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday morning with Bebsy. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. The Saturday will be fully focused on NCAA football with our guys, and I love that show so much. We have Connor Mack, DJ Big Boss, Big Ragu. And Brady says we just don't know what the Pats are capable of on offense. I don't think they're capable of that much. I'll go ahead and say that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Of all the hype that we got from Cam and Camp and I've never seen Belichick gush over a player like he did about Cam Newton. And the guy I saw week 1 was good. He wasn't great. He was better than he's played in recent years, but he's been so badly injured. I agree with you there, Jimmy. I don't think I don't think Cam's going to be spectacular.
This will be a watch game right now. Then we move on to our God. How much fun is that Sunday night game going to be? Then we move on to our Monday nighter. Our Monday nighter. It is the Raiders Saints. Saints open up at -6. The books are all over the place. There's 5.5s, there's 6s, there's 6.5s, and there's 7s. This total opened up at 51.5. It's now at 50.5. Man, did Jacobs look good? Oof. 93 yards, 3 touchdowns. Carr threw for 239 yards in the score. Jacobs last year went for 1,150 yards and 7 TDs. Remember, that was just in 13 games. Monster. Raiders scored on 6 of their first 8 possessions against that young Carolina defense that did not look good. After they went 3-0 on the first drive, they scored on 5 straight possessions. Very, very impressive. But problems. Injuries to both right tackles. Trent Brown, calf injury first quarter. Sam Young, groin in the third quarter. Then they have to move Denzel Good to right tackle. That's their guard. They move him over to right tackle. For the Saints, Kamara gets the extension. Looks awesome. And then Breeze does not. 160 yards, 2 TDs. He did not turn the ball over, only 1 sack, but I don't know. I mean, it looked like 2 40-plus quarterbacks. When we watched that Buccaneers Saints game, it didn't look like either of them were ready to lead their team to a Super Bowl. Raiders, Saints, take it away, Bebsy.
Well, we read this just before we went live. We read that Thomas is out for potentially a few weeks. I really want to see what this Saints offense can do without Michael Thomas. He's really become Breeze's safety blanket. And, again, you watch Breeze and sure, his numbers might end up, his line looks good at the end of the day, but his arm's done too. Like, he looks old out there. He doesn't have the same zip. I don't know if I like betting on the Saints until I see what they're like without Michael Thomas. 5.5 is intriguing. That's the only one I would consider taking. I certainly don't like the 7s, but without Michael Thomas, who knows how they're going to roll. Kamara looked fantastic. And Sean Payton is one of the best offensive minds in football. He'll find ways to get guys open. Sanders is just criminally underrated as a route runner and a receiver. So maybe they'll still be good, but I need to see what this team is like without Michael Thomas. For me, it's a no play on this one as well. Did Josh Jacobs ever look fantastic? I don't know if injuries are going to hold that guy back. Injuries to the O-line, obviously not to him. Man, was he fun to watch. I love his running style. He runs mean. He runs like a 90s running back. He tries to go through people. It's such a beautiful thing to watch. He's so fun. But this is another game for me to sit back and enjoy the game and not place a bet. And a lot of it has to do with Michael Thomas being out. It's such a hard play with him. And frankly, they're going to have to use Breeze sparingly. I think last year him going down for a while, getting a rest while he was injured might have helped him. But that's not a man who's got a gun anymore, so I'm staying off it.
Scott John says simple under. Simple under right now. I think the Raiders can keep this close. This total's gone for 51.5.
Their offense impressed me last week, and man, did Ruggs look like a guy who can open things up for an offense. He's so explosive. They now have 2 incredibly explosive players, and they have Darren Waller, and they have Foster Moreau, and they have Jason Witten. Like, this is a talented offense for the Raiders, and if they put it all together, they could really, really be nasty. It's their defense that I question more than anything right now. It's hard to say. It's pretty early, but man, that 5.5 with Michael Thomas in, I'm on it. But without, I can't touch it.
Birdie is a great point. He says Panthers had 4 rookies starting on D. But I think at home, the Raiders can keep this within 6, and that's what I'm getting at Bet365. It's minus 115. I don't think it lasts. We've seen other books go to 5.5. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to pull the trigger on Raiders plus 6. Trigger pulled. Raiders plus 6. I think Raiders can keep this close. And then I look at my card, and it's all dogs except the Chiefs and the first half Ravens. I'm liking my card. All right, let's do a look through on the entire card here for me and for Bebsy. The Thursday nighter, I'm on the Bengals plus 6, and you passed. Bebsy.
No, I've been thinking about that throughout the show, and I'm joining you on the Bengals plus 6.
All right, let's see what you will get here. We're going to go to the odds page, NFL odds at odds.com, and we're looking at only the licensed books in America for Bebsy here on the Thursday nighter. And the best line we can give you is a plus 6. Oh, it's up to you. There's a plus 6.5 at minus 120 at Bet Rivers. And then there's plus 6s at minus 110.
Give me that plus 6.5. I like you know me, I like to be a little conservative out the gates here. So give me that 6.5.
Plus 6.5 at minus 120. That's at Bet Rivers. And I'm at plus 6. All right. Then I'm going to take the Giants. Plus 5. But I have a question mark there. You're staying off of it?
I'm staying off it.
I didn't love what I saw from the Giants. It was more, I was listening to guys in the chat saying that they really liked what they saw from the Giants. This is another tough defense they're going up against. You know what? I have a question mark there for a reason. I'm pulling it. So I have Bengals plus 6. I'm going to get them at 6 because what I bet at Bet365 is what I'm going to use. For Bebsy, we're giving him the best line available on the licensed books. Then we move over to the Falcons. You got them plus 6 minus 118. You made that an official bet. I can't bet that. I'm not going to take it.
Yeah, I'm still liking that. I'm still Atlanta plus 6.
All righty. Lions, Packers. There's no bet for either of us.
Nope, staying off of that.
You took the Jaguars plus 9.5 at BetMGM. I took them at plus 9.
I mean, how can you not throw a little love their way? I just think it's too big of a spread. I think the Jags can keep that close.
And Intex saying 5 is not a good number to bet. I feel you. 5 is not. Vikings, Colts, we are off.
Vikings, Colts, we are off. Let's see if Old Man Rivers can throw a ball this week before we make any other decisions there.
Bills, Dolphins, we are off.
Bills, Dolphins, we are off.
I pulled the trigger on Niners, Jets under 42.5.
You know what? And I'm going to join you on that under. The more I thought about it, the more I see Darnold seeing ghosts against that Niners D, and that's just a spot for the Niners to win a low-scoring game.
Under 42.5 minus. Oh shit! Well, it's up to you. There's under 42.5 at minus 110, or we could give you Bet Rivers under 43 at minus 121. That will cost you 11 cents.
Buddy, I'll throw 11 cents away for that. Let's do it.
All right, so that's me.
That's 43.5 you found?
No, that's a 43.
43. Let's do it.
Right. 11 cents for a half point there. Under 43 minus 121. That's at Bet Rivers. All right. Rams, Eagles, we are both off.
Yeah.
Broncos, Steelers. I'm going to pull the trigger on the under 41.5 is what I'm going to get at my book, and I'm taking it. Are you making a move, or are you staying off?
No, I've only got one more official for this week.
I'm on Panthers plus 9 at the Bucks. You are off that game. Washington Cardinals, we are both off. Then, Bebsy, you have the Chiefs -8, -115 at Bet Rivers. I have the Chiefs -8.5. I'm taking the Ravens first half -3.5. You are off Ravens Texans. We're both off Patriots Seahawks. And then I'm on the Raiders +6. And that is our NFL card.
I'm good with it. It's I mean, we've been over this for a few years now. I like slow playing at the start of the year just so I can get a better feel of what these teams are going to do. So those are the only things I'm super comfortable about. I want to play that Ravens game. I really do, but it's so hard to judge a team that just trounced the Bears. It looks like, or the Browns. I mean, the Browns just gave up. It's hard for me to know just how much they're going to play, and it's hard for me to know how good or bad the Texans are going to be because they just got worked by the best team in football.
Mr. Sticky Fingers says pound Seattle. I'm going to tweet out Bebenek's action with the books. Bebsy, you can add anything you want. I just have to tweet it out to make it official. But there is our action. And we'll be live Sunday morning going over everything again. We've got no show without these great cappers in the chat. Pie Guy, Viper MB, Robert Cherry, Robert Allen, Scott John, Mr. Sticky Fingers, Birdie. Great group. Intex 2016, ZZ Topic, Steve Miller, Ben Is Money, Gerald Jones, Brett Parker. You guys messed with us for 2 hours breaking down NFL on a Tuesday night with all this other sports action. Thank you guys. Al Cervic, Uncaddy, Pie Guy, Kyle Bogart, Dennis Garcia. What a great group. Bebsy, any last words for these great cappers in the chat before we put a bow on this?
Not too much. Just thanks for joining us, boys. I love a lot of your takes and look forward to seeing more of you as the season goes on. And
opening up the season 5-0. 5.
Oh, no, you just put the hex on it. I'm going to even it up this week now.
I don't believe in that stuff, man. I don't believe in garbage. So every Tuesday night right here, 8 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday morning, 11 a.m., you catch Bebsy and I. Bebsy, thank you so much, my friend. All you guys in the chat, thank you so much. We have a lot of sports tonight. I'm back at 10 a.m. tomorrow with Betting with the Bag. I got a lot of work to do and a lot of sports to watch tonight. Lily Gunn, it was so wonderful to see you, Lily. We have so much love for you. Half of the famed Vegas Gun Award right there, Lily Gunn. Love you guys. Thank you, Bebsy.
Thank you guys. You're all beauties.
I think we're gonna have a real strong year here doing all this work, getting in early on the Tuesdays. I love it. Love you guys. Good hustle. Get paid in full. And we'll catch you on Sunday.